Hey everybody. Today I'm going to go through how I would make a tapered table leg. I'm going to show how I would make it in OnShape, which is an online CAD program, so computer aided design. OnShape is pretty cool. You can go in and design your 3D models and then import them over to Aspire or Vectric. So I'm going to go through how I use that. OnShape is not the only online CAD program or CAD software. Um, there's a bunch of other ones. I'm sure, if you've been at the CNC for a while, you've heard of SolidWorks and Rhino and all of that good stuff. 90% of them offer a free program for those of you that don't know. So OnShape, the reason I went with them, I tried all of the other ones and I've said, the one that I can make a cube in the easiest is the one I'm going to go with. So for me, it was OnShape. That worked for me, just trying the different ones. But anyway, I want to get into this. I'm going to move moderately fast, just to get the ideas out there. If you're interested in more of a look at OnShape, Too Tall Toby, I'll link him below, has awesome videos on how to use OnShape and SolidWorks and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm going to bounce between OnShape and Aspire, but for this, the Vectric would work first. So what we're looking at making is just a tapered table leg. So what I have is, this is a hall table that I've drawn up just to show what we were looking at, and I went ahead and added dimensions to this table so we know what we're making. The only thing after designing it, I would have probably made this apron like 3 inches or so. But nonetheless, I'll show you all how I went through just making the, a leg itself. So if you don't know, we have a dimension tool over here where we can take the overall dimension of a piece. So, you can actually use this as a parts list, or once you design your stock, or your stuff, you have your parts lined up so you could cut from here. Anyway, we're going to turn this off, and I'm going to just add a new sheet really quick. And we'll give us some room on this one. So our leg stock I've got at 2 inches thick. And the first thing I want to do is I want to draw what is going to be our leg blank. So here's our leg blank. Then what I'm going to do, I know that my apron is 2 inches wide. I'm going to make a 2 1/4 inch square. And I'm going to stick this right at the top of this table leg that we made. And I like using these short keys over here for placement. And then I want the taper to start 1 inch from the bottom. So I'm going to make another cube. And I'm just going to send this down to the bottom. And this will make sense once we get there. So this is outlining where my taper is going to start back up to nothing. So I'm just going to grab the line tool, stick a point there, and and we're going to call it right there just for, show and tell here. Then we'll just come in with the snippet tool, Control Z if you didn't know. We're going to delete these 2 blocks. And all I did with these blocks is it was just, as a reference. And then we're going to go over here and we're going to join these vectors. So now we have what's a solid vector. So if you have a 2 inch piece of stock and you wanted to cut this taper, you would just simply set up, your profile cut around the side. And then we're left with this right here. Now, if you wanted to also add an inside taper to this, you would make this cut first, then rotate your stock over on the CNC, run that same profile cut that you just made, and that'll cut this inside portion off. And that'll give you your 2-inch down to 1-inch taper on the inside part of the leg. So the other thing you can do if you don't have 2-inch thick stock is we're just going to take this half leg that we made, for instance, and we see I have some drawings here. We're just going to drop in a couple holes for dowels. I made these 0.38, little room for a 3/8 dowel. So here's one leg half. And then if we come over here to the mirror tool, here you have what would be a book matched leg. So these two pieces would get cut, you would glue them together, you have your registration, and then you would go back to the profile cut that we just made to cut that inside part of that leg blank if you were interested. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to OnShape and I'm going to show you how we can design this part in OnShape. All right, everybody, now we're going to jump into OnShape. So OnShape is a cloud-based CAD software, so computer-aided design software. I'm not going to get into super deep conversation with this because I'll be honest with everybody watching this. As much things as you can do with this software, I think I know maybe 10%. If you look at this model over here, this is some of the stuff that people come up with. So it's pretty incredible. So really quick, if you're interested in OnShape, I'm not sponsored by them. It's just the software that I use. As a matter of fact, in any of my videos, I'm not sponsored by anyone except for myself. The only thing I would ask, if anybody wants to help me out a little bit, is I do sell clamps for the CNC. They're called Cobra clamps. I've got them. Amazon is my most up-to-date listing, but I just came out with some new clamps. So I have a new clamp set here, and this clamp set more or less is going to be good if you're doing a lot of V carving. So I've got these low profile slab flattening clamps is what I call them, with the, and I'm sorry, I'm looking for a picture here to show everybody a little bit better. So with these slab clamps, you have this knife. They're made locally in North Carolina by a company called Laser Brothers. And I'm going to give them a little shout out right now too. So sometimes with, the CNC industry, we're so focused on wood and we know there's these other components out there. Well, if you take I believe the guys use a step file, maybe it's a DXF, but nonetheless, I designed these knives in Vectric and sent them to the guys at Laser Brothers in North Carolina. They have fiber lasers. They can cut brass, stainless steel. Nonetheless, that's what these knives are. So you can safely flatten down to approximately 0.38 before you will hit the tip of this knife on these. And then with the complete set, you've got where you can go in, you can slab flatten. I've got corner toe clamps that can go on the corners if you're interested in, I don't know, maybe you're making a rosette or something. And then these toe clamps that I have, I'm trying to find a better picture, and you all could go through there if you're interested. But like this says, this is a 20-piece set. So this is if you're going to be using it mainly for sign making, I think, but use the flattening clamps. You can actually just leave them on there, flatten your work surface. Then when you come back and V-carve, like let's just make it easy and say you're doing an American flag. if your project is warped at all, we all know that that's where your issues are with V carving. So anyway, that's my shameless plug. I appreciate you all checking that out for me. Anyway, let's get back to business here. OnShape, you can sign up for free. The difference with the free version versus the paid version, from what I've seen, there are multiple levels of the paid version. In the free version, you get the access to the CAD design. You can do drawings, you can change the appearance, all kinds of stuff. There's just, when you make your files, they're in a public domain. So just keep that in mind. If you're making something that you don't want anyone else to have access to, you'd have to look at a paid program then. And I do enough rambling, so I'm moving on. So when you open up OnShape, you have an option of creating a document. I've already done that. So I've set this up as if we were looking at a 2D view, just like we were in VCarve, and that's how I'm going to model this. So like I said earlier, if anybody wants more of an in-depth instruction, then definitely check out Too Tall Toby. On the Vectric side of things, Mark Lindsay, Learn Your CNC, Garrett from IDC Woodcraft can help you out a lot more. So anyway, basic functions of OnShape. Here we are in OnShape. This is a true three-dimensional software. So you can see your XYZ planes, top, bottom, everything. And that was the hardest part for me in the beginning because I'm so used to that 2D plane, and now you have options. So I'm going to try to simplify this a little bit. Like I said, I'm going to explain what I'm doing, but I'm going to move moderately fast just so everybody can see. And then again, you want to go back and watch. So we're going to select this top plane. I'm going to come up here to this corner triangle or rectangle tool, and I'm going to grab a center point rectangle. And with OnShape, I'm just going to left click, let go. And here's the start of our shape. I'm going to left click again. And then I can do our dimension of 2 inches wide by just hitting 2 and enter, and then 41 inches tall. And here's the overall sketch of our table leg. So we have an option here right away where I can extrude this and make it 2 inches thick, which is what I think I'm just going to do. So we're still in the 2D view, let's say. But now if we spin this object, we can look at all 4 different sides of this. So for this next part, I'm just going to turn this these planes off with a P. I want to sketch on this face because now we're going to draw what's going to be our taper. So we can click on the piece, we can hit N. That'll bring whatever you're looking to normal to your look. So if we look, we're back at this top plane over here. All right, so now we're going to go up here to this line tool. This is a line. You have a few options here. And this is called a construction line. So I want everybody to think back to what I did in Vectric, where I did the 2-inch block or 2 1/4 inch block up here. So I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to use this line and this construction tool, and I'm going to come down 2.25 inches, let's say. So to make this easier to understand in Vectric, when we have a solid line, we have a completed vector. When we have a broken line, we're incomplete. So that's basically what this is. This is just a guide for us. So then I'm going to go down to the bottom here, and we have short keys, S. Here's our line tool. If we hit Q, that'll activate our construction mode. And this is all going to make a lot more sense here in just a minute. Okay, and we're not going to worry about that there. So we have a 1-inch guide there. We're going to S key, hit our line tool. We're going to grab this point. And this is what I like about OnShape that's different than Vectric, is OnShape can tell, hey, I know you want to grab this point, and you can see by the little icon that shows up that we're tangent to here. We're in plane with this, etc., etc. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to complete this whole vector here. So we're going to draw a line to this corner here and back to here. So now what we're looking at is a three-dimensional view of that leg with our sketch. And this just means that, your Wi-Fi may be a little goofy. So what we want to do now is cut this inside part out. So if you hit the space bar or escape on this one, you can see that this side highlights, this side highlights. We're going to highlight this side with the left click. We're going to come up here to extrude. We're going to hit remove. And you can do 2 inches here because our stock is 2 inches, or you can just jump up here and hit through all, and it's going to remove that whole piece for you. So here we are with our three-dimensional leg, just like we had in Vectric. Now, if we want to make this inside, we're going to do the same thing that we did before. We're going to short key, and we're going to sketch. We're going to use a line tool, Q, and all we need down here is just to come in and just drop and that's 1 inch. We're going to short key just like we did before. Grab this point, and then we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to remove this inside portion. And here we are. And you can see I didn't quite grab that bottom long enough to get this cleaned off. So it's this simple. We're going to just left click that, hit remove, and there we are. We're back in business. So this is a super quick tutorial. I don't know how long this took, but even showing of how to design this three-dimensional part. So now what we're going to do is we're going to export this. We're going to go here. We're going to export this piece. We want to export it as an STL. Here it is up here. So you can just open this if you want. But we're going to go back over here into Aspire now. And if we see, I've got this import tab set up here. So we're going to import this composite model. Now, the only thing that everyone is going to have to pay attention to when bringing this in is the direction on which that taper is. So it looks to me that the taper is here and here. So I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees. Then I'm going to center our model. And again, this is a lot easier if you're not using like this double-sided taper deal. So we're going to position and import this. And I want our leg stock to be shown above the material because we're going to cut all the way through. We're going to import this. Okay. We're going to highlight this and we're going to come down here and we're going to draw a boundary box around that. So now we can make a profile cut if we need to. I'm going to make the tool paths just to show everybody, but these are not going to be the tool paths you should use for sure. You're going to set up your active sheet so it shows our stock is 2 inch thickness. Lower left datum is what I always use. Material surface. We're not going to have any gap above the material because we're 2 inches and we're going to make a 2 inch cut. I keep my rapid Z movements at 0.2 above the material, and we're going to hit OK. I'm showing a 3/8 compression bit, but I tell you what, we're going to come up here and we're going to ramp plunge moves. The other thing to take a look at, let me go back up here and you can check to see what your step over is. So our step over is at 40%. So no matter what, we're going to get kind of a rough cut there. Okay, so here's our roughing tool path. And you see that's basically all we're kind of left with on this inside face. So you can make a decision here whether you're going to, sand that bit off if you want, or if you want to come back with like a bigger end mill and clean that up. But here we are basically with our tapered table leg. So what the software did is tapered this front portion. You could use a ramp or the molding tool path if you wanted to. But then we'll come back in and we'll just clean this up so everybody can see. So this is just whatever's in here, I'm just going to go with. And here we are. So that's it. That's two ways that you can make a tapered table leg and OnShape. So I want to show everybody one more thing. Some of you have seen some of my videos where I make really big tables and stuff like that using the CNC, and I'll show you really quick how I go about doing that. So another cool part in OnShape is this is part 1. So we can turn this part off, and this is how you can actually come in and build different parts of furniture within the same plane, so to speak. So for this one, I'm going to start with the top plane, and I'm going to make a dining table base, and I want this to be 18 inches tall, just the base. So what I've done here is I've taken this top plane, I've right-clicked it and did offset, and I've gone ahead and made this top plane 18 inches taller. But this is going to be a little bit different. So instead of using the top plane like we would in Vectric, or plane 1, as this shows, and again, I know I'm moving fast. I'm just, want to show what this software can do for everybody. So I'm going to draw on the front plane. I'm going to hit sketch. And the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to draw a line up. And I want this line to be 18 inches. Okay, so that's where our bulb or whatever is going to be. I'm just going to hit escape for a second. So then we can decide, how we want to design this. So our tabletop would go here. And let's say you were going to make a 24-inch tabletop. You wanted a 12-inch overhang. So we need 6 inches here. So we'll go 6. And then we'll need, the base to be big enough so the top doesn't flip over. So I would say 9 inches there. So now all we're missing, and the way that I design furniture and things like that is I get my constants first. So the part of the project that I know is not going to change. So my top diameter is not going to change. And then I know if I have a 24-inch top, this is going to get doubled. So I'll have an 18-inch base, which is more than stable enough to carry that table. So now what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to make a bulb in the middle, just like, a lot of people see on my furniture. And I just grab this ellipse tool, and here's a bulb, so to speak. You have arc tools. The tool that I like the most is this. I should have left that ellipse there. Let me go back and do that really quick. So when you can tell the software, how big you want the ellipse, yada, yada. And so our ellipse is in place. So now I'm going to grab this spline, and you all are going to see really how fast this stuff is. I like a little round over here maybe. And all I'm doing is left clicking and dropping little points. That's all I'm doing. Okay. So now to get like a better look at this, I'm going to make sure that all of my points here are touching one another. Now I'm going to grab this trimming tool, just like we have in Vectric. I'm going to trim these parts away. Okay, so for all intents and purposes, this is what would be a vector, and it actually doesn't look bad. I'm pretty shocked. But anyway, you can go in here and you can just grab these nodes. There might not be even called nodes. I'm not sure what they're called on this software, but I'm going to call them nodes just for this. And you can see this one has a Bezier attached to it, just like in Vectric. But you can just grab these lines and just move this however you want. So this is good. We're complete here. We're going to take this revolve tool. We're going to highlight this. And then I want to spin this all the way around on this axis here. And that's how fast you can design a table base. Now let's say you want to take a look at it. You want to see what it looks like. So I want to draw on this face. Let's go ahead and draw our top in there. We're going to grab a center point circle. Here's our center point. We're going to left click. We wanted 24 inches. We're going to make our top 1.25 inches thick. Okay. And here's our table. So the other thing we have with the software that's really cool is you can just drop fillets wherever you want. So if you just click this top portion, you can choose how big you want the fillet to be, and or just an edge. So pretty neat software here. So enough of this right here, and then we're going to follow the same principle when it comes to exporting this over into, sorry, I'm getting confused here. There we go. The only thing that we would get rid of would be this top. We don't need the top, but the same thing as before. We would just export this. All right, and we would come over into VCarve or Aspire, whatever you're using, and add a new sheet. I've already got this one set up just because. Sheet 1, we'll bring this composite model over, and there it is. So now at this point you have the option. I mean, it's based on your machine, whether you want to try to carve this piece this way or this way. But at this point, you can center the model where you have it below the table if you want, so you can do a two-sided job. You can rotate it this way. Center the model, you can segment this, meaning you can slice it into segments, or you can also slice it, after you've completed the model, and that's typically what I do. So anyway, I know this is a lot. Hopefully this was helpful. Everybody learned something. If there's anything you want to see me try to design in the comments, that would be great. For full transparency, I have a woodworking business that I do Monday through every single Monday of the year. So I only really make what I make. So if anybody's running into trouble or they want to see something, shoot me a little note on here and I'll see what I can do. And the other thing is, I would like for everybody in the comments, if we could just help each other out, that would be great. If anybody's having trouble, just to make us all better. So I appreciate it. I hope everybody enjoyed the video and stay safe. Thank you.